The Grand Pinnacle Hotel stood imposingly in the center of Ashford Springs, Colorado, a town balancing its mining roots with burgeoning luxury tourism. Lawrence Bennett, the hotel's executive manager for 8 years, walked the polished hallways with his trademark rigid demeanor. At 45, Lawrence had built his career on relentless perfectionism and a reputation for excellence that brooked no mistakes. That April morning, the hotel was hosting a group of prominent investors. Lawrence personally inspected every detail, adjusting floral arrangements and inspecting silverware with a critical eye. His impeccably tailored suit and the gold badge on his chest proclaimed his authority. "Is the Jefferson room completely cleared? The Westbrook executives are arriving in less than an hour," he asked the assistant who followed him, typing frantically on a tablet. "Yes, Mr. Bennett. The cleaning crew finished 20 minutes ago." "I'll check it out myself," he replied, already heading for the elevator. In the hallway leading to the conference room, a woman of about 65 silently pushed a cleaning cart. Elena Vasquez had worked at the hotel for only 2 weeks. Small in stature, with gray hair always tied back in a discreet bun, her hands were scarred from hard work, but her movements were precise and efficient. As Lawrence quickly turned the corner, he nearly collided with the cart. In his sudden swerve, Elena accidentally knocked over a bucket of water, splashing the manager's Italian pants and shoes. "For God's sake! What do you think you're doing?" Lawrence's voice rose instantly, echoing through the hallway. Passing guests stopped to watch. "We're about to host important executives and you're creating floods in the hallways?" Elena's face paled, but she remained composed, immediately bending down to mop up the water with the materials from her cart. "I'm sorry, sir. It was an accident," he replied softly with a slight accent. "Accidents are unacceptable in this hotel," Lawrence continued, his face red with frustration. "Do you have any idea how much these shoes cost? More than you probably earn in a month. Is this why we hire unqualified people? To destroy the reputation we've built?" Some nearby employees looked down, embarrassed by their colleagues' public humiliation. A well-dressed guest passing by frowned, visibly uncomfortable with the scene. Elena, however, didn't fight back. With quiet dignity, she simply nodded and continued cleaning efficiently. "It'll dry quickly, sir. I won't leave any marks. Make sure of it. And keep your equipment out of the way of important people. Stay in the back where you belong." Lawrence adjusted his tie, regaining his composure. "Rebecca, make a note to human resources about basic training for the cleaning staff." As he walked away, Lawrence didn't notice the admiring look one of the receptionists gave Elena, nor did he hear her whisper to another employee, "She's got more class in her little finger than he has in his whole body." Elena simply finished cleaning, adjusted her simple gray uniform, and continued her work. No one noticed the small, discreet jade pendant she carried hidden beneath her uniform, a family heirloom passed down through generations. 2 miles away at the small private airport in Ashford Springs, a Gulfstream G650 jet taxied smoothly down the runway. The man who disembarked moved with the ease of someone accustomed to returning to his roots. Alexander Vasquez, at 42, bore clear features of his mother, the same observant eyes and dignified posture, though framed by clothing that bespoke his current financial position. "Welcome back to Ashford Springs, Mr. Vasquez," the pilot greeted. "Would you like us to arrange transportation into town?" "That won't be necessary, thank you." "I've already taken care of that," Alex replied, looking out at the mountainous landscape that framed the city where he was born. As he waited, he reflected on the 20 years that had passed since he'd left with nothing but a purse and the dream of building something meaningful. Now, with a financial empire valued in the billions and holding companies on 3 continents, he returned with a purpose that transcended business. A simple black sedan, far from the ostentatious look he might have chosen, approached. A man of about 70 got out, smiling broadly. "Michael!" Alex hugged his old family friend with genuine affection. "How's my favorite godfather?" "Old and grumpy, but alive enough to see the boy wonder return," replied Miguel Rivera, whose white hair and lined face told tales of the mines that once sustained the city. As they loaded their luggage into the car, Miguel lowered his voice. "Your mother doesn't know you're arriving today, right?" "As we agreed. She thinks I'll arrive next week. I want to surprise her." "Stubborn as ever, she continues to work at that hotel, even after you offered her everything she needed to retire comfortably." Alex smiled, already expecting this information. "She told me over the phone. Honest work built our name, and I'm not going to abandon it just because my son has money now." Elena Vasquez, the keeper of traditions. Miguel shook his head in admiration. Did you know that the younger hotel staff have already started seeking her out for advice? They know wisdom when they see it. On the drive to the small house Alex had discreetly purchased on the outskirts of town, Miguel updated him on local changes. The decline of mining, the transformation of Ashford Springs into a tourist destination for the wealthy, and how traditional families struggled to maintain their cultural identity. And what about Grand Pinnacle? How has management been since Westbrook Holdings acquired it? Alex asked casually, though the interest was calculated. Ah, that pompous manager is running the place the old-fashioned way. Luxurious for the customers, ruthless for the employees. But that's about to change, isn't it? Miguel gave Alex a knowing look. Considering Westbrook Holdings is now owned by the Vasquez Group, Alex allowed himself a small smile. The transaction closed 3 days ago. Quietly, as I prefer. Westbrook doesn't even know I'm the lead buyer. Just an anonymous Asian investor. And when do you plan to reveal your identity? When the time is right, Alex replied, watching the city he'd grown up in come closer through the window. First, I want to understand how things really work when no one's watching. Elena Vasquez returned to her modest apartment in the old Ashford Springs neighborhood at 5 p.m., as she did every day. The small 2-bedroom property reflected its owner's essence, simple, organized, and filled with meaningful memories. After changing her uniform into comfortable clothes, Elena sat on her small balcony, watching the sunset color the mountains. She took a modern cell phone from her pocket, one of the few luxuries she had accepted from her son, and smiled when she saw the message. I'll be here next week. Prepare your special tea. Love, Alex. What her son didn't know was that Elena had already sensed his early arrival. Decades as the matriarch of a family with strong traditions had sharpened her intuition. In fact, she had already prepared the guest room and harvested the special herbs for the tea Alex so enjoyed. Elsewhere in the city, in the luxurious office of the Grand Pinnacle Hotel, Lawrence Bennett reviewed the latest quarters figures. The results were good, but not exceptional, and pressure had been mounting since the hotel was acquired by Westbrook Holdings. Rumors of a new owner were making everyone anxious. His phone rang. Mr. Bennett, it's Jennifer from the front desk. We have a client requesting indefinite lodging. He requested our best suite. Name? Mr. Chen, businessman from Hong Kong. We have no additional information, but your credit card was approved without restrictions. Arrange everything. I want an impeccable reception. Possibly an investor. Lawrence arranged the photo of his wife and children on the table, a family he rarely saw due to the long hours he put in at work. His father, a successful hotel executive, had instilled in him from an early age that perfection was non-negotiable. You're only as good as your last success, he repeated constantly, ignoring any effort that didn't result in absolute triumph. Meanwhile, in his temporary home, Alex unpacked the essentials. Spread out on the table were documents detailing his plans for Ashford Springs, a cultural center to preserve local traditions, a microcredit program for small artisans, and investments in sustainable infrastructure. Do you really intend to remain anonymous? Asked Miguel, who was helping him organize the makeshift office. For now, I want to see how people act naturally, without the pressure of knowing who I am. Alex smiled. Besides, I promised my mom I wouldn't use our name to intimidate anyone. Elena and her principles. Miguel shook his head in admiration. When you were a child and those rich kids teased you, she could have mentioned that her family was one of the founders of this city before the gold rush. But no, she insisted that you earn respect by your actions, not by your name. Alex smiled as he remembered. After his father's untimely death, Elena had raised her son alone, working 2 jobs while preserving the traditions and values of her heritage. Even when Alex had secured his scholarship to study on the East Coast, she had refused to abandon the community she considered her extended family. That's why I need to do this right, Alex said. It's not just about business. It's about honoring his legacy. On the small table beside her, Alex carefully placed a framed photograph. A young Elena, standing next to her late father, both smiling before the mine that had belonged to the family before the Great Depression. A silent reminder of their roots and the purpose of their return. The next morning, Lawrence Bennett personally supervised breakfast preparation at the Grand Pinnacle. The mysterious Mr. Chen would arrive soon, and everything needed to be perfect. The kitchen staff worked under maximum pressure, while waiters practiced their best obsequious expressions. Jenkins, make sure the financial newspaper is available. Coleman, I want the finest champagne ready if you request it. Lawrence adjusted his suit, glancing irritably at a tiny stain on his sleeve. "And someone changed this tablecloth. There's a loose thread at the hem." Elena worked silently in a corner, polishing the decorative glass. She observed everything with attentive eyes that didn't judge, just absorbed. Over the years, she had developed the ability to become nearly invisible while working, a quality many executives mistakenly mistook for insignificance. At precisely 8:30 a.m., Alex Vasquez entered the hotel restaurant, dressed in an elegant understatement that suggested money without ostentation. The receptionist immediately noticed him and signaled Lawrence. "Mr. Chen, welcome to Grand Pinnacle." Lawrence approached with studied enthusiasm. "I'm Lawrence Bennett, executive manager. It's a pleasure to welcome you." Alex nodded politely. "My pleasure. I've heard great things about this establishment." As he was led to the best table, Alex scanned the room with an observant gaze. He immediately noticed his mother working discreetly. Their eyes met for a brief second, long enough for a silent recognition, but without any indication that might reveal their kinship. "This is the best table in the house with a view of the mountains," Lawrence explained. "We've prepared a special menu if you enjoy local cuisine with an international twist." "Actually," Alex replied, "I'd prefer something simple. Maybe eggs and the bread I can smell baking." Lawrence hesitated briefly. "Certainly, although our chef has prepared specialties." "Simple is good," Alex interrupted gently. "Sometimes the value lies in the perfect execution of the basics, not in the complexity." From her corner, Elena watched the interaction, a slight smile on her lips. She knew well her son's preference for simple, authentic food, no matter how many Michelin-starred restaurants he frequented around the world. Breakfast went smoothly until a young waiter, nervous with Lawrence supervising, knocked over a cup of coffee, slightly staining Alex's jacket sleeve. "Incompetent!" Lawrence hissed, grabbing the boy's arm. "Apologize to Mr. Chen immediately." The young man turned pale. I'm sorry, sir. It was an accident." Alex watched the scene with interest, noticing the other employees' discomfort and growing tension. "It's okay," he interjected calmly. "Accidents happen. There's no real harm." "Unacceptable," Lawrence insisted. "Jenkins, you're dismissed for the rest of the day. No pay." Alex raised an eyebrow. "That seems excessive for such a minor accident, Mr. Bennett. At Grand Pinnacle, we maintain the highest standards of excellence." "I understand," Alex replied, his voice taking on a more formal note. "However, in my experience, excellence also includes how we treat those who make occasional mistakes." An awkward silence followed. Lawrence forced a smile. "Of course, I can reconsider if it bothers you." "Not because of me," Alex replied, watching Elena, who was now discreetly cleaning a nearby table. "But maybe on principle." After the meal, as Lawrence walked Alex to the lobby, they passed Elena arranging floral arrangements. Alex slowed his pace. "Beautiful flowers," he commented. "Someone here certainly knows about traditional arrangements." Elena kept her eyes downcast, but responded softly. "Thank you, sir." "They're inspired by ancient mountain gardens." Lawrence seemed surprised by the interaction. "Elena is new to our team, but I can arrange for someone more qualified to discuss the hotel's decor." "That won't be necessary," Alex replied. "Sometimes valuable wisdom comes from unexpected sources." Then, with a slight nod to Elena, he went on his way, leaving Lawrence puzzled by the brief exchange. Over the next few weeks, Alexander established a calculated routine. He spent his mornings at the hotel, using his suite as a makeshift office, observing the dynamics between staff and management. His afternoons were spent in discreet meetings with former residents and community leaders, always without revealing his true intentions or full identity. Lawrence Bennett, sensing an opportunity to impress an important client, intensified his efforts to please Mr. Chen. Invitations to exclusive dinners and offers of special services became constant, all politely declined with the same excuse. "I prefer to observe the regular authenticity of your operation." On a particularly busy afternoon, Lawrence found Elena carefully polishing the ancient oak banisters of the main staircase, a job that would normally be assigned to younger staff. "Why are you doing this?" "Where is Thomas?" he asked angrily. "He's helping in the kitchen, sir." "They're short-staffed today," Elena replied calmly. "I volunteered to take care of it." Lawrence studied his work for a moment. "At least you're doing it right. This oak is over 100 years old. 132 to be exact," Elena corrected gently. "It was harvested from the local forests during the 1891 expansion." The manager looked surprised. "How do you know that?" "My family has been in Ashford Springs for generations, sir. My grandfather helped build the first hotel on this land." This information gave Lawrence momentary pause. Before he could respond, Alex appeared in the lobby, returning from a walk. "Mr. Chen, I hope you're enjoying your stay." Lawrence quickly turned his attention to the important guest. "Quite," Alex replied. Then, noticing Elena, he added, "Good morning, ma'am." Elena nodded respectfully. "Good morning, sir. I was admiring this handrail. Impressive craftsmanship." "It's original from the 1891 construction," Elena offered. "It survived the 1943 fire because volunteer firefighters used traditional containment techniques learned from the local native people." Lawrence looked uncomfortable with a simple cleaning lady's display of knowledge. "Elena, I'm sure Mr. Chen isn't interested in ancient history." "On the contrary," Alex interjected. "History and tradition interest me deeply. Would you continue, please?" Elena went on to explain how the hotel had been rebuilt with the help of the local community, and how certain architectural features embodied symbols of protection and prosperity from the cultures that shaped Ashford Springs. Lawrence watched with growing discomfort, unable to interrupt due to Alex's obvious interest. When Elena finished, Alex thanked her with genuine respect. "Valuable knowledge. Thank you for sharing it." After Elena left to continue her work elsewhere, Lawrence tried to downplay the incident. "She likes to tell local folk stories. Very colorful, though not always accurate." Alex watched the manager with interest. "Mr. Bennett, in your opinion, what is this hotel's greatest asset?" "Our reputation for excellence and luxury, naturally. Every detail is controlled to ensure the perfect experience." "Interesting," Alex replied. "During my travels, I've discovered that truly exceptional hotels offer something money can't easily buy: authenticity and a genuine connection to the place and its culture." Lawrence nodded, trying to hide his confusion at the direction of the conversation. "We can certainly add more cultural elements to the experience, if that's what you're interested in." "I'm not talking about adding elements," Alex corrected gently. "I'm talking about recognizing what already exists naturally." With a slight smile, he excused himself, leaving Lawrence to contemplate his words. That night, Alex finally officially visited his mother's house. After a simple dinner, Elena had prepared with ingredients from her small garden. They sat on the porch, enjoying the starry sky above the mountains. "So," Elena smiled, pouring the special herbal tea, "what do you think of the man who yelled at me in the hallway?" May brought the traditional Lantern Festival to Ashford Springs, a celebration that blended the diverse cultural heritages of the immigrants who founded the town. The streets of the historic center were decorated with colorful lanterns, traditional food stalls, and spaces for local artisans to display their work. Lawrence Bennett saw the festival primarily as a marketing opportunity. "We need a strong institutional presence," he instructed his team. "We'll set up a stylish booth promoting our wedding and special event services." On the morning of the festival, he was personally supervising the setup of the Grand Pinnacle booth when he noticed a group of elderly people gathered around Elena, who apparently wasn't working at the hotel that day. To his surprise, she wore a richly embroidered traditional dress with antique silver and jade jewelry, a stark contrast to her usual understated uniform. Even more surprising was the evident respect with which people treated her, listening attentively to her instructions regarding the layout of a central space where the main ceremony would take place. "Who's that?" asked Rebecca, his assistant, noticing his gaze. "Elena Vasquez. Works on the cleaning crew." Rebecca looked surprised. "Really? She seems important. Everyone's treating her like she's some kind of authority figure." Lawrence watched with growing curiosity as the town mayor approached Elena, greeting her with obvious deference. Later that day, when the festival was in full swing, Lawrence noticed Mr. Chen strolling among the stalls, seemingly enchanted by the festive atmosphere. Seeing a networking opportunity, he approached him. "Mr. Chen, what a pleasure to meet you here. Are you enjoying our little local festival?" Alex smiled. "Very. There's real authenticity here, something increasingly rare in today's world. If you'd like, I can introduce you to some influential people in town," Lawrence offered. "The mayor is here and so are some local businessmen." "Thank you, but I'd rather just observe for now. Events like this reveal a lot about a community." As they talked, they announced the start of the main ceremony. Lawrence was stunned to see Elena walk onto the small central stage, receiving warm applause. "Welcome to our Lantern Festival," she began, her voice clear and confident, a far cry from the respectful, subdued tone she'd used at the hotel. "For generations, our families have gathered to celebrate the light within each of us, and honor those who came before. Is she some kind of community leader? Lawrence asked a woman beside him. Elena Vasquez is our keeper of traditions, the woman replied with obvious admiration. Her family is one of the oldest in Ashford Springs. When the Council of Elders nearly disappeared in the 1990s, she was the one who kept our traditional celebrations and knowledge alive. Lawrence watched open-mouthed as Elena led a complex ceremony involving traditional dances, chants, and the symbolic lighting of the first lantern. Her natural dignity and the respect she commanded were undeniable. Across the square, Alex watched with quiet pride. When their eyes met briefly, mother and son shared a moment of silent recognition. After the ceremony, Lawrence found himself near Elena, who was now chatting with a group of young people. Uncomfortable with this new perception of someone he had treated with such disdain, he hesitated before approaching. Mrs. Vasquez, I didn't know you had such a prominent role in the community. Elena turned, a serene smile on her face. At the hotel, I'm just a cleaning lady, Mr. Bennett. Here, I'm who I've always been. Before Lawrence could respond, the mayor interrupted to introduce Elena to some out-of-town visitors. Feeling strangely out of place, Lawrence walked away, only to find Alex watching the interaction with evident interest. Impressive, isn't it? Alex commented. How someone can have such distinct identities in different contexts. Lawrence nodded uneasily. Quite surprising. In my culture, Mr. Bennett, we deeply respect elders and traditional keepers. Alex paused meaningfully. Often, the true wealth of a community lies not in its buildings or natural resources, but in the knowledge preserved by people like them. As Lawrence digested these words, Elena began a traditional dance in the center of the square, moving with grace that defied her age, leading young and old in steps that told ancient stories. The crowd applauded, and for a moment, Lawrence glimpsed something he had never considered: the intrinsic dignity that transcends social rank and titles. In mid-June, torrential rains hit Ashford Springs, causing the river that ran through the town to overflow its banks. The Grand Pinnacle, built on higher ground, was physically safe, but the infrastructure was affected by power outages and water supply problems. Lawrence was facing a crisis as he tried to maintain his standard of excellence with limited resources. The hotel was at full capacity due to a business convention, and the pressure to avoid disappointing important clients was overwhelming. We don't have enough power for the elevators and air conditioning simultaneously, the chief engineer reported. The auxiliary generator can't handle both. Prioritize the elevators, Lawrence ordered. Open the room windows for natural ventilation. What about the water? Low pressure on the upper floors. The municipal system is overloaded. Lawrence massaged his temples, feeling the beginnings of a severe headache. Great. Simply perfect. As they discussed alternatives, Elena silently passed by with her cleaning cart. She paused briefly, seemingly listening to the conversation, before continuing on her way. Minutes later, he returned and approached hesitantly. Mr. Bennett, may I offer a suggestion? Lawrence sighed impatiently. We're in the middle of a critical situation, Elena. Yes, sir. It's about the water problem, she continued, despite his expression of disinterest. The hotel has an original cistern system in the basement. It was decommissioned in the 1970s, but it still exists. It could provide non-potable water for the bathrooms, relieving pressure on the main system. Lawrence and the engineer exchanged surprised looks. How do you know that? My grandfather helped build it, he replied simply. And there's a second generator entrance through the west wing that could better distribute the electrical load. It was closed during the 1998 renovation, but the infrastructure remains intact. The engineer looked skeptical but intrigued. Theoretically, it could work, but we'd need the original blueprints to locate these systems. I can show you, Elena offered, if you'll allow me. Lawrence reluctantly agreed, following Elena and the engineer down to the hotel basement. To his surprise, she confidently navigated the seldom-used subterranean corridors, accurately pinpointing hidden structures behind modern walls. Here, he said, pointing to a specific area. Behind this wall is the main valve that controls the alternative system. When they opened the indicated section, they found exactly what Elena had described. The engineer was amazed. This doesn't appear in the current plans. How did you know? Traditional knowledge, Elena replied simply. My family has kept the stories of what lies beneath and above these lands for generations. With Elena's guidance, they were able to partially reactivate the old system, significantly alleviating the water problems. Her suggestion about the generator also proved valuable. allowing for more efficient distribution of the available energy. When they finally resolved the situation, Lawrence found himself in an uncomfortable position, that of a debtor of gratitude to someone he had treated with such disdain. "Thank you for your assistance," he said formally. It was surprisingly helpful. "The hotel is part of this community's history," Elena replied. "Helping to preserve it is my responsibility, regardless of my position here." Later that day, Lawrence found Alex in the lobby, seemingly unfazed by the inconvenience caused by the storm. "How are you managing the situation?" Alex asked, genuinely interested. "Better now. We had some unexpected assistance with alternative systems that we didn't even know existed. Hidden resources are often the most valuable," Alex commented, "especially those that stand the test of time." Lawrence hesitated, then shared, "It was our cleaning lady, actually, Elena Vasquez. She knows this building better than our engineers." "Fascinating," Alex replied. "It seems she's more than just a cleaning lady. Apparently. At the festival, I found out she's some kind of community leader, keeper of local traditions or something. And did that change your perception of her?" The question caught Lawrence off guard. I suppose so. I confess I underestimated you." "A valuable lesson," Alex observed. "We often judge based on appearances and positions, not on actual abilities or character." As Alex walked away, Lawrence reflected uneasily on her words and on his own tendency to categorize people according to their immediate usefulness. The image of the humble cleaning lady turned respected leader, and now the hotel's technical savior challenged his most basic assumptions about value and competence. In July, Westbrook Holdings officially announced that the Grand Pinnacle Hotel would be part of a major restructuring under the guidance of its new majority owner. The news triggered waves of anxiety among employees and management, especially when it was revealed that representatives of the mysterious investor would visit the hotel to evaluate operations. Lawrence was in his office, obsessively reviewing financial reports and planning impressive presentations, when Rebecca rushed in. "Mr. Bennett, I just received a memo from headquarters. The strategy meeting will be held here next month, and they're requesting..." She hesitated. "They're requesting our entire team be present, including employees at all levels." Lawrence frowned. "All levels? That includes cleaning staff, maintenance?" "Yes, explicitly. They say they want a holistic assessment of organizational culture." This was unusual and concerning. Typically, such meetings involved only senior management. "There's more," Rebecca continued. "They're specifically interested in our policies on cultural preservation and integration with the local community." "What? We're a luxury hotel, not a cultural center." While Lawrence was absorbing this disconcerting information, Alex Chen requested a private meeting. Intrigued and hoping to gain some insight into the situation, Lawrence immediately agreed. In his office, Lawrence tried to maintain his professional composure. "Mr. Chen, how can I help you today?" "Actually," Alex began, "I came to offer a perspective that you might find valuable considering the recent news. Any insight would be greatly appreciated." Alex smiled slightly. "I'm somewhat familiar with the group that acquired this hotel. Their focus is unconventional." Lawrence leaned in, suddenly very interested. "What do you mean?" "They believe that truly successful ventures integrate three elements: operational excellence, sustainable innovation, and..." Alex paused significantly. "Respect for traditional knowledge and local culture." Lawrence tried to process this unexpected information. "We're always open to new business approaches." "Excellent." Alex stood up. "Then I have a proposal for you. I'm organizing a pilot project for the new direction. A series of themed dinners that would combine the hotel's culinary excellence with authentic local traditions." "Interesting. Our marketing team could develop..." "Actually," Alex interrupted gently, "I'd like Elena Vasquez to lead the cultural aspect of the project." Lawrence couldn't hide his surprise. "The cleaning lady? The guardian of local traditions," Alex corrected with polite firmness. "Her knowledge would be invaluable to the authenticity we seek." Seeing Lawrence's hesitation, Alex continued, "Naturally, this would be in addition to your current responsibilities, with appropriate compensation. And yes, I understand this is an unconventional request, but consider how such an initiative might impress the new owners, especially with your stated focus on cultural preservation." Lawrence was torn between skepticism and a desire to please an influential client who seemed to have connections to the new owners. "I can consider the proposal. Excellent. Oh, and one last thing. Alex added casually as he headed for the door. "I'd like you to work directly with Elena on this project. Personal involvement, not just remote approval." After Alex left, Lawrence remained in his office, contemplating the strange turn of events. The idea of working side by side with a cleaning lady on a prestigious project challenged everything he considered appropriate in the corporate hierarchy. However, something about the way Alex presented the proposal suggested there was more at stake than met the eye. And with his position with the new owners potentially at risk, Lawrence couldn't afford to refuse. Reluctantly, he picked up the phone and asked Rebecca, "Locate Elena Vasquez and have her come to my office. It looks like we're going to be working on a special project." The first planning meeting for the Heritage Project, as it was officially named, created an unusual scene in Lawrence's elegant office. Elena Vasquez sitting at the conference table as a participant, not as the person who would later clean up the space. "Thank you for this opportunity," Elena said calmly, placing a worn, leather-bound notebook on the table. "I brought some initial ideas based on the food traditions of our region." Lawrence nodded stiffly. "Mr. Chen was quite insistent about your participation. I should clarify that this is a temporary project and does not change your regular position at the hotel." "I understand perfectly, Mr. Bennett." Over the next hour, Lawrence was forced to reevaluate his assumptions as Elena presented surprisingly sophisticated proposals for a series of themed dinners. Her knowledge of local culinary traditions was encyclopedic, complemented by a clear understanding of how they could be adapted for a modern audience without losing authenticity. "This is the August Harvest Festival," he explained, showing sketches of decorations and table settings. "Traditionally, we celebrate the first harvest with dishes that combine fresh, local ingredients with ancient preservation techniques. It symbolizes the balance between abundance and providence." With each explanation, Lawrence found himself increasingly engaged, despite his initial resistance. Are these traditions really still practiced today? For some families, yes. Less than in the past, of course. There was a note of sadness in his voice. "Part of the reason we preserve this knowledge is that, once lost, it can rarely be authentically recovered." By the time they finished the initial meeting, Lawrence felt confused about his own feelings. The woman he had treated as a mere cleaning lady demonstrated a depth of knowledge and strategic thinking that many of his managers lacked. Over the next few days, Lawrence and Elena worked together on various aspects of the project. To his surprise, he found himself appreciating her calm efficiency and practical approach to problem solving. Without realizing it, he began to treat her with growing respect. During one of these sessions, while reviewing options for traditional decor, Lawrence noticed an old photo that had fallen out of Elena's notebook. "Let me help," he offered, taking the picture. He froze as he recognized the place. It was the Grand Pinnacle, but decades earlier, probably in the 1940s. A group of workers posed proudly at the entrance, and in the center stood a man who bore a striking resemblance to Elena. "This is the hotel," he commented, surprised. "Yes," Elena smiled, accepting the photo back. "My grandfather, Antonio Vasquez, was the master carpenter who led the reconstruction after the 1943 fire. And this woman next to him is my grandmother, Maria, who designed many of the decorative elements that still exist in the lobby." Lawrence studied the image with renewed interest. "Your family really has a long history with this place. The Grand Pinnacle and the Vasquez family have been intertwined for generations," Elena confirmed. "My great-grandfather helped build the first hotel on this land in 1891. My father worked here as a maintenance engineer for 40 years. And now you?" Lawrence stopped, suddenly aware of the inadequacy of completing the sentence with, "clean the bathrooms." Elena smiled softly, sensing his discomfort. "And now I carry on the tradition of service in my own way. Each generation finds its own way to honor the past." That night, in his apartment, Lawrence found himself researching the history of Ashford Springs and the hotel. To his surprise, he discovered that the Vasquez family was mentioned in several historical records as one of the town's founding families, long before the tourist boom. One particularly interesting article mentioned how the land on which Grand Pinnacle now stands had originally belonged to the Vasquez family, who had ceded it for community development in the 1880s. "How can this be?" he muttered to himself. "How does someone from such a historically significant family end up as a cleaning lady in the hotel built on their own ancestral lands?" The question disturbed him more than he cared to admit, forcing him to confront his assumptions about status, worth, and the invisible histories of people he had judged solely by their current roles. In his own luxurious apartment across town, Alex received a report from Miguel on developments. "Elena says Bennett is starting to ask the right questions," Miguel commented with a smile. "Apparently, he accidentally found some historical photographs." Alex smiled. "My mother never does anything by accident. Every move is deliberate, even when it seems casual. The man is confused. He can't reconcile the humble cleaning lady with the respected matriarch and the local history expert." "Good," Alex replied. "Confusion often precedes true learning, and he has a lot to learn before the big reveal." The first event in the Heritage series was scheduled for late July, coinciding with a traditional local summer celebration. Lawrence, determined to impress both Mr. Chen and any potential representatives of the new owners who might attend, was personally involved in every detail. To his surprise, he found himself increasingly deferring to Elena's expertise on cultural elements. When the executive chef questioned some traditional ingredient combinations, Lawrence found himself defending her suggestions. "Trust me, Felipe, these specific herbs are essential to the authenticity of the dish," he insisted, repeating information Elena had shared. "They represent the 5 elements in local tradition." On the night of the event, the banquet hall had been transformed with decorations that blended contemporary elegance with traditional elements. Handcrafted lanterns, native floral arrangements, and a circular centerpiece created an atmosphere that was simultaneously sophisticated and authentic. The guests, a carefully selected mix of prominent guests, local business people, and community figures, seemed delighted with the immersive experience. To Lawrence's initial dismay, Elena was present not just as a behind-the-scenes consultant, but as a guest of honor at Alex's express request. Dressed in an elegant traditional gown with jade and silver accents, she commanded respect and curiosity. "I'm surprised you included her so prominently," Lawrence commented quietly to Alex as they watched Elena chatting easily with a group of businessmen. "Why?" Alex asked. "She's the definitive authority on the traditions we're celebrating. Her presence lends an authenticity that no amount of research or outside advice could provide." Dinner progressed, with each course introduced with a brief explanation of its cultural significance. When dessert arrived, an elegant reinterpretation of a traditional sweet made with local fruits and wild honey, Elena was invited by Alex to share the story behind the dish. With effortless grace, she explained how the recipe symbolized transformation and renewal, having traditionally been served during ceremonies marking new beginnings. "In the ancient traditions of our region," he concluded, "we believe that understanding and honoring our past gives us the wisdom to create a better future. True progress does not discard tradition, it incorporates and elevates it." Heartfelt applause followed his words. Lawrence noticed how even the most skeptical business people seemed genuinely touched. After dinner, as the guests socialized, Lawrence found himself beside Elena in a moment of relative calm. "You were impressive tonight," he admitted, surprised by his own sincerity. "Your knowledge clearly captivated everyone." "Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I appreciate the opportunity to share these traditions in such a respectful setting." Lawrence hesitated, then asked something that had been bothering him. "Why do you continue to work as a cleaner? With your knowledge and standing in the community, surely you could—" Elena smiled serenely. "Honest work is honorable work, Mr. Bennett. My mother cleaned houses, as did my grandmother before her, even when our family had means. They taught me that serving others with dignity never diminishes who we are. It only reveals our true character." Before Lawrence could respond, they were interrupted by the mayor, who wanted to introduce Elena to some visitors. Watching her walk away with effortless elegance, Lawrence felt an uncomfortable mixture of admiration and shame as he recalled how he had treated her. "A remarkable woman, isn't she?" Alex's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Extraordinary," Lawrence agreed. "I've learned a lot from her." "True learning often comes from the most unexpected sources," Alex observed, "particularly when we are willing to question our own certainties." As the evening drew to a close, praise for the event was unanimous. Mr. Chen discreetly informed Lawrence that representatives of the new owners had been present incognito and were extremely impressed with the integration of service excellence and cultural authenticity. For Lawrence, however, the greatest impact was not professional success, but the growing realization that he had spent years valuing the wrong metrics of excellence and ignoring forms of knowledge and value that didn't fit his narrow vision of success. August brought not only the intense summer heat, but also growing tension at Grand Pinnacle. Rumors of layoffs and restructuring under the new owners circulated among employees, creating an atmosphere of apprehension. The date of the official meeting with representatives from the parent company approached, and Lawrence felt the pressure mounting. The success of the Inheritance series continued with a second, equally successful themed dinner, bringing unexpected recognition to the hotel. Trade publications praised the initiative as innovative, and reservations increased significantly. However, Lawrence remained unsure of his position. "Rebecca, schedule individual meetings with each department head," he instructed. "I want detailed performance reports and optimization proposals before the official visit." His assistant hesitated. "Actually, Mr. Bennett, I've already received specific instructions about the meeting. It appears it will have a different format than usual." "Like this?" Representatives requested focus groups involving employees at various levels, not just management reports. They want open dialogue sessions about the hotel's culture. Lawrence felt himself losing control over a process he would normally master. The uncertainty was uncomfortable for someone accustomed to clear hierarchical structures. That afternoon, he found Elena carefully arranging traditional artifacts that had been loaned by local families to decorate the lobby during the cultural series. "Mrs. Vasquez," she called, noticing how he had naturally begun to address her more formally, unlike his previous first-name address. "May I speak with you for a moment?" Elena smiled. "Certainly, Mr. Bennett. I've noticed the respect you receive in the community," he began, choosing his words carefully. "And your contribution to the Heritage Project has been invaluable. Thanks. I'm curious." He hesitated, then continued. "In your interactions with Mr. Chen, did he mention anything about the new owners or their intentions for the hotel?" Elena studied him for a moment. "He didn't discuss specific details with me, but he seemed genuinely interested in how the hotel could best honor local traditions moving forward." Lawrence nodded, frustrated by the lack of concrete information. "These changes are challenging. I've managed this hotel for years following certain principles and standards. I'm not sure if the new direction..." To his surprise, he saw understanding in Elena's eyes. "Change is rarely comfortable, Mr. Bennett. In the traditions of our community, we view transformation as a natural process, not a rupture. Like the serpent shedding its skin, the essential remains, even when the outward appearance changes." Lawrence considered his words. "I'm not sure I can adapt so easily. Maybe it's not about adapting, but about rediscovering something that was always there," Elena suggested gently. "When our family faces storms, we don't fight the wind. We learn to dance with it, keeping our roots firmly in what truly matters." There was wisdom in his words that Lawrence couldn't deny. Before he could respond, Alex approached, eyeing the artifacts with obvious interest. "Extraordinary pieces," he commented. "Each one tells a story." "Mr. Chen," Lawrence straightened. "We were discussing the next steps of the project." "Excellent. In fact, I'd like to significantly expand the initiative," Alex announced. "I'm authorized to report that the new owners are extremely pleased with the cultural direction and want to implement similar elements throughout the hotel chain." "In the whole chain?" repeated Lawrence, surprised. "Yes, and they would like Ms. Vasquez to play a key advisory role," Alex continued. "Naturally, with an appropriate position and compensation." Lawrence felt a contradictory mix of emotions. Pride in the success of the project she had initially resisted, apprehension about her own role in this new structure, and confusion about the rapid rise of someone she had until recently considered merely a low-level employee. "That seems significant," he managed to reply diplomatically. Elena looked equally surprised. "It's an honor to be considered for such a responsibility. The formal proposal will be presented at the official meeting," Alex explained, along with other important announcements about the future of Grand Pinnacle. When Alex walked away, Lawrence found himself alone with Elena again, both processing the implications of the news. "It looks like we're in for some significant changes," he commented, trying to keep his voice neutral. "Changes, yes," Elena agreed. "But as I said before, what really matters often remains constant." As he watched Elena calmly return to her work, Lawrence faced an internal storm. His entire sense of order and hierarchy had been disrupted. The woman he had yelled at over a simple water spill months ago was now being considered for a corporate advisory position. More disturbing was his growing realization that Elena's story, the rich cultural heritage she carried, her connection to the community, and the dignity with which she faced both respect and disdain, represented a kind of value his years of corporate training had never taught him to recognize. The day of the official meeting finally arrived. The Grand Pinnacle had been meticulously prepared, from the gleaming lobby to the main conference room where representatives from headquarters and local executives would gather. Lawrence checked his reflection one last time before heading to the meeting. His suit was impeccable, but his eyes in the mirror revealed the anxiety he was trying to hide. Over the past few days, he had obsessively reviewed every aspect of his tenure, preparing to defend his record. The conference room was set up differently than usual. Instead of the traditional rectangular table with the chief executive at the head, chairs had been arranged in a circle, a format Elena had explained was traditional for important community discussions, symbolizing equality of voice. Employees from various departments entered hesitantly, clearly uncomfortable with this breach of protocol. Elena arrived wearing simple but elegant professional attire, no longer a cleaning lady's uniform, but also no clothing that indicated special status. At 10 wowed sharp, Rebecca hurried in. "Mr. Bennett, the representatives from head office have arrived. They are being met by Mr. Chen in the lobby." Lawrence straightened his tie nervously. "Excellent. Bring them when they're ready." Minutes later, the door opened. Alex entered, accompanied not by corporate executives as Lawrence expected, but by Miguel Rivera and two formal-looking lawyers. "Good morning, everyone," Alex greeted, scanning the room with a serene gaze. "Before we formally begin, I have an important announcement." Lawrence felt his stomach tighten. Mass layoffs? Hotel sale? As many of you know, the Grand Pinnacle was recently acquired by a new ownership group, Alex began. "What has not been publicly announced is the identity of that owner." He paused significantly, then continued. "My name is not Chen. I am Alexander Vasquez, founder and CEO of Vasquez International Group." A surprised murmur ran through the room. Lawrence felt momentarily disoriented. "I was born and raised in Ashford Springs," Alex continued. "I left 20 years ago to study and build my career. Now I've returned to reconnect with my roots and contribute to the community that shaped me." As Lawrence processed this revelation, he noticed something even more surprising: the look of quiet pride on Elena's face, which betrayed no surprise. As if reading her thoughts, Alex turned to her with a warm smile. "And I am honored to introduce my mother, Elena Vasquez, whose wisdom and values have guided every step of my journey." The shock was palpable. Employees stared open-mouthed from Elena to Alex and back again, trying to process that the discreet cleaning lady was the mother of the billionaire who now controlled their professional destiny. Lawrence felt frozen in place, painfully vivid memories flooding his mind. Him yelling at Elena over spilled water, publicly belittling her, patronizing her, all under the watchful eye of his son, the new owner. "My mother insisted on keeping her day job during my initial evaluation of the hotel," Alex explained. "She believes, as I do, that the true character of an organization is revealed in how it treats each person, not just those deemed important." Elena stood and joined her son. "Alexander and I share the belief that successful businesses should benefit not only shareholders, but also employees and communities. This hotel stands on land our family shared generations ago for the common good. It is fitting that it now returns to serve as a bridge between tradition and future." Lawrence felt all eyes momentarily turn to him. To his surprise, he saw no accusation in Elena's or Alex's eyes, just a kind of calm anticipation. "The past few months," Alex continued, "have been an opportunity to observe, learn, and identify both strengths and areas for growth. Today we come not to announce layoffs or drastic changes, but to begin a genuine dialogue about how Grand Pinnacle can honor its heritage while embracing a more inclusive and sustainable future." The tension in the room visibly eased. As Alex continued to outline his vision, Lawrence remained silent, confronting the magnitude of his error in judgment and the extraordinary lesson in humility he had inadvertently received. When he finally found a voice to speak, he surprised everyone, including himself. "I believe I should begin by sincerely apologizing to Ms. Vasquez. My behavior was unforgivably disrespectful and represents exactly the kind of corporate culture that should have no place here or in any professional environment." The silence that followed was broken by Elena's gentle voice. "True learning often begins with honest acknowledgement, Mr. Bennett, and it's never too late for a new beginning." In the months following the revelation, the Grand Pinnacle Hotel underwent significant transformations, not only in policies and procedures, but in the organization's very culture. To the surprise of many, Lawrence Bennett remained as executive manager, although his leadership style had changed dramatically. One October morning, Lawrence was leading a staff meeting in the new circular configuration that had become standard. "The cross-mentoring program is showing excellent results," he enthusiastically reported. "Employees from different departments sharing knowledge has not only improved operations, but also strengthened our sense of community." Rebecca nodded. Guest reviews specifically mention the welcoming atmosphere and personalized service. "What about our oral history program?" Lawrence asked. "Extremely popular," responded the new director of cultural experiences, a position created specifically to integrate traditional elements into the hotel's offerings. "Guests love learning about the region through the stories shared by locals." Lawrence smiled, remembering how he had initially resisted the idea of inviting community elders to share stories in the lobby on certain evenings. Now, these sessions often drew more participation than much more expensive entertainment. After the meeting, Lawrence met Alex in the main restaurant, now renovated to include a menu that celebrated local ingredients and traditional techniques alongside international offerings. "The third quarter numbers are impressive," Alex commented. "Occupancy increased 28% compared to the same period last year." "The most surprising thing is that we simultaneously reduced costs," Lawrence replied. "Local suppliers, energy conservation techniques based on traditional methods. Your mother's suggestions proved not only culturally significant, but also financially sound." Alex studied the man in front of him, so different from the rigid, arrogant manager he'd initially met. "You seem pleased with the changes." Lawrence considered the observation. "I am. I confess that I initially feared that preserving traditions would mean sacrificing excellence or profit. Now I see that they are complementary when implemented with genuine respect. My mother always says that true wisdom recognizes that apparent opposites often need each other to create balance." Speaking of Elena, she herself entered the restaurant, accompanied by a group of junior staff. No longer wearing a cleaning lady's uniform, she now held the official position of cultural heritage consultant for the entire hotel chain. However, she maintained the same humility and calm presence that had always characterized her. "There you are," he greeted, joining the table. "I was showing the new employees the building's original architectural elements. Elena is introducing a cultural orientation program for all new hires," Lawrence explained to Alex, "sharing the history of the hotel and the region so they can share it with guests." Alex nodded approvingly, then checked his watch. "Almost time for the ceremony. We should get ready." The ceremony in question was the official inauguration of the Vasquez Community Center, built on land adjacent to the hotel. The project, funded by Alex's foundation but conceptualized by Elena, would create a space where local youth could learn traditional skills alongside modern technologies. As they walked to the event, Lawrence reflected on his personal journey. "You know, when I found out who you guys really were, I expected to be fired immediately. I still wonder why they gave me a second chance." Elena smiled. "In our family traditions, we believe that people can change when confronted with truth and given opportunities for growth. You've demonstrated a willingness to learn, a quality rarer than many realize. Besides," Alex added with a smile, "your transformation serves as a powerful example for others. Genuine cultural change rarely comes from new policies alone. It needs to be modeled by leaders willing to evolve." At the ceremony, Lawrence watched in awe as Elena, dressed in traditional attire reflecting her heritage, conducted an ancestral blessing for the new center. Alex stood respectfully nearby, the powerful CEO momentarily just a son honoring his mother's wisdom. Community representatives, hotel staff, and local residents gathered to celebrate not just a new building, but a vision that balanced respect for the past with hope for the future. As he watched, Lawrence realized that the most valuable lesson of the past few months wasn't about hotel management or even cultural respect. It was about the fallibility of appearances and the importance of recognizing intrinsic value in every person, regardless of title or position. A year after the hallway incident, the Grand Pinnacle Hotel hosted an international conference on sustainable hospitality. Delegates from around the world had come to learn about the innovative model that combined service excellence, environmental responsibility, and cultural preservation. Lawrence Bennett, now Director of Sustainable Development for the entire Vasquez chain, was preparing to present a panel on organizational transformation. Reviewing his notes in the lobby, he noticed Elena crossing the space, greeting employees by name and discreetly adjusting a floral arrangement. "Even with all your responsibilities, you still find time for the little details," he commented as she approached. Elena smiled. "The little details are often the most important." They're the invisible threads that hold everything together. The year had brought profound changes for both of them. Lawrence had abandoned his obsession with control and superficial perfectionism, discovering greater satisfaction in collaborative leadership. Elena, while maintaining her characteristic humility, was now internationally recognized as an expert in integrating traditional knowledge into modern business practices. "Nervous about your presentation?" she asked. "A little. It's not easy to talk about one's own mistakes publicly." "On the contrary, it is precisely by sharing our failures and learnings that we offer more genuine value to others." The conference began with Alex welcoming the participants. In his speech, he emphasized how the hotel had become a case study in cultural transformation. A year ago, this establishment operated like many others, focused exclusively on traditional metrics of success. Today, it embodies a holistic approach that honors the past while embracing the future, that values each person and each role as an essential part of a greater whole. When it was time for Lawrence to present, he surprised the audience by beginning not with graphs or statistics, but with a personal story. "My transformation journey began with a spilled bucket of water," he began, honestly sharing the incident with Elena, and how that moment eventually led to a complete reevaluation of his values and leadership practices. "I learned that true leadership comes not from titles or authority, but from character and wisdom. That dignity is not conferred by position, but revealed in how we treat others, especially those who seemingly have no power over us." From the front row, Elena watched with quiet pride, not for her role in history, but for the genuine growth she was witnessing. After the formal sessions, a celebration was held in the hotel gardens, where local culture was showcased through music, dance, and traditional cuisine. Lawrence found Elena and Alex chatting with international delegates. "Your panel was extremely powerful," Alex commented, "particularly for its authenticity." "Thank you. I'm still learning." "We all are," Elena replied wisely. "The day we stop learning is the day we stop growing." Observing the diversity of people gathered, employees at all levels interacting naturally with international executives and delegates, local elders sharing stories with young professionals, Lawrence felt deep satisfaction. "We've built something truly special here, haven't we?" he reflected. "We rebuild," Elena corrected gently. "We rediscover something that was always potentially present. As our traditions teach, the circle always returns to the beginning, but at a higher level of understanding." As the sun set over the mountains, casting a golden light over the celebration, Lawrence contemplated the transformative power of a simple incident that had completely changed the course of his life. The woman he had yelled at over spilled water had turned out to be not only his boss's mother, but a teacher whose wisdom transcended titles and positions. "You know what impresses me most?" he said to Elena as they surveyed the assembled community. "How you never showed resentment or desire for retaliation, even when you had every power to do so." Elena smiled serenely. "Retaliation only perpetuates negative cycles. Transformation requires someone willing to break the cycle." She paused, watching her son chat animatedly with a group of young apprentices. "Besides, true power never lies in making others feel small, but in helping them recognize their own greatness." In that moment, Lawrence understood the final lesson, that the journey that had begun in humiliation had culminated in humility, not as defeat, but as the profound strength that came from recognizing the inherent worth in every person, regardless of outward appearances. The man who had once yelled at a cleaning lady had found not only professional redemption, but personal transformation, discovering that true excellence transcends superficial perfectionism, residing in values that no title or privilege could confer. And the cleaning lady, who carried quiet dignity even when treated with disdain, had revealed herself to be not only the mother of a billionaire, but the keeper of wisdom that no material wealth could buy. The understanding that our true worth never depends on how others see us, but on how we choose to see and treat each person we encounter on our journey.